Society on BCTV is supported in part by the Highlands at Wyomissing.
Hello and welcome to the monthly program of the Historical Society of Berks County. I'm your host, George M. Miser IX, President of the Historical Society of Berks County and publisher of the Historical Review of Berks County, the Society's quarterly magazine in print since October of 1935. Not incidentally, most back issues of the review are still available from the late 1930s to the present time. It should be noted that this program is telecast live on the first Wednesday of each month at 7. It repeats this Friday at 10, Saturday at 6, and Sunday morning at 9 a.m. Welcome all to our May 2009 program. Seated beside me is Joshua Blay, Society Curator and Associate Director.
Hello, George.
Hi. Beside Joshua is Simon B. Bertlett, the Society's Executive Director.
Hello, George.
Yeah, afternoon. Beside Mr. Bertlett is Kim Richards, Society Archivist and Director of the Henry Janssen Library, which fronts on Spring Street, directly behind our main headquarters. Anchoring our panel is David Sonnen, President of the Friends of Conrad Weiser Homestead at Wilmersdorf.
Hi, George.
We're pleased to have you.
Our museum, library, and gift shop and our Henry Janssen Library are open Tuesday through Saturday, 9 a.m. to 4 p.m. Our museum shop is fully stocked with Reading and Berks histories by a variety of present day, and old-time authors. Our gift shop has the largest inventory to be found locally of Reading and Berks County histories, new and pre-owned. The gift shop has a wide variety of pottery, artwork, and craft items by best-known local artisans and potterers.
We remind viewers that for $40, you can be one of us, a member of the Historical Society of Berks County. Membership in the Society includes our prize-winning quarterly magazine, the Historical Review of Berks County, edited by Michelle Lynch. Membership includes unlimited use of the museum and library. Incidentally, family memberships, all people living in the same house, are but $50 a year.
And while we're on the subject of memberships, we remind you at home that Berks Community TV, BCTV, is a survivor in a tough venue and a unique entity in that it's interactive. You are encouraged to call in at 610-378-0426 with your questions and comments.
Why not salute BCTV for all the great shows it provides to Reading and Berks, and send a check for $30 for a year's membership. Mail your check to BCTV, 645 Penn Street, Reading 19601. Remember, time passes, but operating expenses never go away. Isn't that true, Mr. Bertlett?
It is very true, and I will let the audience know one other thing. Come on in here. We anticipate, and we've been told and it's been rumored, that there is an upcoming volume of The Passing Scene number 17, and we're expecting it for the holiday season. That's just a rumor. So keep that under your hat, but like I said, we're pretty sure that it might happen. But I would also like to say that we still have volumes 15 and 16 left at the Historical Society. So if you haven't completed your collection, I strongly urge you to stop by the Historical Society and pick up those 2 volumes. They're still $45 plus tax, and it makes a great gift. Mother's Day's coming up, so your mom might not, or your grandmother might not have 15 or 16 in their collection. I urge you to stop by and get one.
Because when they're all sold...
When they're all sold, like I said, there are no more print runs on these today. You know, they said it costs too much to do an extended print run, and so when we make up our 2,500 copies, that's it. Once they're gone, they're gone.
And don't forget Lucky 13. We have some 13s available, too.
We do. Okay, what's the price on that one?
Those are about $30.
$30,
okay.
Cash
and carry only.
Cash and carry.
Right.
There you go.
Yeah, thank you. We're fully aware that many of our home viewers really like to see old-time views of Reading and Berks. It's this aspect of our program that sets the Historical Society's monthly presentation apart from all other programs on local cable. Tonight you'll see genuinely rare views that you've never seen before, guaranteed, including photographs of an Eversink Mountain trolley at the Glen Hotel, Carsonia's Thunderbolt, and the really neat picture, the White House Hotel's gypsy-like station wagon. That was a wagon that picked up at the station at 5th and Penn.
Well, At this point in the program, I'd like to introduce a very good friend of the Historical Society of Berks County. And George introduced him earlier in the program, and that is David Sunnan. David, again, as George said, is the president of the Friends of the Conrad Weiser Homestead, and he'd like to talk to us about some of the events and some of the challenging circumstances that they're facing. So, David, why don't you tell us a little about what's going on at the homestead?
Sure. First of all, I want to thank you, Simon and George, and the Historical Society for having me on today. If you've read the newspaper recently, you heard there's a lot of things going on at the homestead, and we're trying to get the public aware of some of those events. As a background, I'll first give some information about the Friends group. The Friends organization is a nonprofit organization that's referred to as an associates group. We work with the PHMC to help support the historic sites, provide programming and funding of events and things like that. And we also sponsor internships and other events like that on the homestead. Our members are really committed to preserving the legacy of Conrad Weiser. And if you know about Conrad Weiser, you know that his resume is quite impressive. Probably one of the most influential Pennsylvania Germans in colonial Pennsylvania and in our nation's early history. And he was an Indian ambassador, an interpreter. He served as the first judge of Berks County. He helped to found Berks County and lay out the city of Reading. He was a magistrate, a churchman, a businessman. So he really did leave behind an incredible legacy. And his life was really a testimony to what a person could accomplish in the New World. In 1793, after Weiser's death, George Washington visited Weiser's grave and made the comment that posterity will not forget his services. And we're threatened now with possibly losing one of the main outreaches we have to reach the public and tell the Weiser story. If we look at the history of the park, there was a very coordinated effort in the 1920s to get the Weiser Park established. There was a Weiser Park Association that worked closely with the Berks County Historical Society, as well as a lot of individuals and families and lots of other numerous community organizations. And eventually the Weiser Park was established to preserve Weiser's home and gravesite, and set aside about 26 acres of land that had been part of Weiser's estate. And that memorial park was designed by the Homestead firm, which actually designed Central Park in New York. So a very famous and well-to-do designing firm. The park was dedicated in 1928, and soon after that, the park was turned over to the state. So for 80 years, the Weiser Park has been preserving and commemorating and memorializing Conrad Weiser. And now we have an issue that we're facing. Just last year, the PHMC, the Pennsylvania Historical Museum Commission, completed a sustainability survey in which they basically evaluated all of the sites that they operate and looked at visitation and paid tickets and programming and outreach with the community and things like that. And the final outcome of that was they made recommendations, the committee made recommendations for the future of some of those sites. And unfortunately, the recommendation that came out for the Weiser Homestead is what we would consider one of the worst possible scenarios, in which the state is proposing to, the one benefit is keeping the park open, but the historic buildings would be closed. They're proposing removing the collections, possibly taking the exhibits that are in the buildings and putting them in storage, or kind of retrofitting those to be outside and modifying them for outside displays. They would also eliminate some staffing on site. And as a Friends group, we feel that would really jeopardize, the mission that the Weiser Park has. So we basically are asking the public to help us plead our case. Luckily, the state is not making a final decision until June 17th, and they've agreed to allow the public to voice their support and their concerns. So on June 4th, at St. Daniel's Church in Robizonia from 6 to 8 p.m. There's going to be a public meeting in which the public can come and speak to people from the PHMC and voice their concerns. And we're really hoping we can get a great turnout for the public to show their support for the site. If you want to know why the park should stay open, or the reasons why you should support the park operating as it currently is, I have a lot of them. And a few of them I would say are just very, very practical. The Weiser Park is a great location for relaxation and for recreational activities. The site provides a lot of community outreach. We provide locations for weddings. A lot of the students from the Weiser High School, from the Conrad Weiser School District, they do community service hours by volunteering at the Weiser Park. We work with the Berks County Juvenile and Adult Probation System to allow people to work off community service hours. And without a full-time staff person in the visitor center, we could not coordinate any of those kinds of efforts. And that is one of those positions that they would be eliminating if the state goes through with what they're proposing. On a larger picture, or on a bigger note, we can look at just the benefits of having a site like Weiser in terms of bringing in tourism and just promoting Berks County, and also, you know, preserving the Pennsylvania German heritage that so many of us are proud of having. And there's so few sites like this in our part of Berks County, and our part of the state. And we have very few sites that tell the story of the interaction between the Pennsylvania Germans and the Native Americans. And Weiser certainly is part of that story.
He kept us out of the Indian Wars.
You're exactly right. Weiser worked for almost 20 years as an interpreter and helped to maintain peace between the provincial government and the Iroquois Confederacy.
So he was a national figure.
Yes, yeah, he was nationally known.
That's right.
And like I said, his influence is almost beyond measure. On a bigger picture, we just look at the history of Pennsylvania is one that is kind of punctuated by, and it's unique in the fact that it has a huge amount of cultural and religious diversity. And all those things come together to create this magnificent tapestry we have that's part of our history. And if you look at that story that tells what, you know, how Pennsylvania came to be, you need to have lots of little, small, unique stories to tell that you can put together and get that big picture. And I really don't think you can tell the story of Pennsylvania without Conrad Weiser. He's an essential part in developing both Pennsylvania and our nation. And really, I think our nation would be completely different today if Weiser had not been involved. It really could have ended with the Iroquois siding with the French, and the outcome of that war could have been completely different, and who knows what would have changed in terms of where we are right now. So, you know, the bottom line is that we really think that the Weiser homestead is important enough for the state to reconsider its proposal and for them to maintain it as is, and find the funding for it to keep it operating, which I really don't think would be you know, a lot of money in terms of the overall state budget.
What is that date again for the meeting?
The date again is June 4th.
June 4th. What day is that?
It's a Thursday.
Thursday, June the
evening
4th.
From 6 to 8 p.m. at St. Daniel's Lutheran Church in Robizonia, and I really hope to see a lot of people come out and show their support.
So there's another reason why the people of Reading and Berks should be interested in the homestead. The fact that when you see that genealogical chart of everybody who stems from Conrad Weiser and his wife, by this time it's thousands of people.
Yeah, absolutely. And it includes,
can trace back to Conrad Weiser.
Yeah, and it includes also, we have very notable families, like the Muhlenberg family.
Wow.
Weiser's daughter married Henry Melchior Muhlenberg, and their descendants, many of them went on to play prominent roles in the Revolutionary War.
We thank you very much for that.
Well, thank you again for having me.
We ought to plan to attend that.
Good luck to you, too.
Pleased to see you.
You bet.
I believe we have some things on the graphics camera. These pictures that are on the graphics camera have come from a number of sources. Some of these are really, really rare, And you're getting a sneak preview of volume 17 because these photographs...
So it's true.
Oh, yes. These photographs were restored for inclusion in volume 17. You have no idea how bad this picture was originally. Notice that there are arc lights and gas lights in that. That is the operating room. That is the operating room for the homeopathic hospital, latterly Community General Hospital at 6th and Walnut, across from what had been the Raja Theater. That is the main operating room, and if you see there what appears to be 5 babies all lying side by side like sardines in a can, that's what you're actually seeing. That is the main operating room for the old homeopathic hospital, which I think sort of came into existence around 1891 or so. Anyhow, a really rare picture, only one I've ever seen of the operating room in the homeopathic Community General Hospital, taken over by St. Joe's. The next view, please. This is, I look at that room and I see, my goodness, that really is a large bar room. That building still stands. That is at 3rd and Elm, right on the corner. I think it stands on the the southeast corner of 3rd and Elm. You drive by, the building is still there. At present, it appears to be vacant, and needs a bit of work here and there. But that's what that place was. It went through quite a number of operators over the course of time. The next view, please. This I found extremely interesting. A number of people who looked at that noticed right away that there are some very rare chairs in that room. That's the old headquarters of the Women's Club of Berks County on North 5th Street, today used largely for concerts. But that's how it looked years ago, and what you're seeing there in the way of furniture is now all gone.
I don't think there's a pair of matching chairs in that shop.
It reminds me of my house. Yeah, that's a very, very interesting photograph, and that's early, in the early days of the Women's Club. By the way, the Women's Club headquarters had originally been the Y Missing Club until they built the new Y Missing Club at 5th and Walnut. Then that was acquired by the ladies for the Women's Club of Berks County.
George, we're also in the process of getting their collection.
That's right. Yes, they are. They became defunct about, what, 3 years ago, perhaps?
Roughly.
Yeah, about 3 years ago. I gave my first lecture ever in 1959 at the Women's Club of Reading, and at that time the auditorium was packed. I gave the last program that they had scheduled, and there were 7 people there, and one of them was a man. So things have certainly changed.
Not including you?
Dr. Bell.
Is that right?
Yeah. Oh, we have a home viewer. Yes, home viewer.
Hi, this is Ruth Schaefer. Hi, everybody.
Hi.
Hi, Ruth. How you doing?
I have a question about Conrad Weiser. Why does Daniel Boone get so much more press as far as Berks County is concerned than Conrad Weiser?
Yeah.
Disney.
Daniel Boone was only here till he was around 12 or 13.
Yes, then you're right. Then he left the area. But because of the Daniel Boone. So was it Fess Parker? Who was it?
Fess Parker?
Yeah. Disney.
Yeah, Disney made all the difference in the world.
The Mighty Mouse.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so...
When I was in college, Berkshire Enterprises out in the old barracks buildings at the airport was making Daniel Boone kind of hats.
Well, that's right. Well, and they also had the TV program.
Oh, yeah.
You know, after the movie, so...
Yeah.
And that ran on for how many seasons? 4 or 5 seasons?
It was around for a while, yeah.
It's neat to mention, it wasn't mentioned this evening yet, but in the war exhibit that we have right now, we talked about the 2 local ships named after local people.
Right. Yeah.
Kim found that there was a Liberty ship named after Conrad Weiser,
Yes.
but beyond, there's not really a lot of name recognition.
I guess Disney has to be, must be credited for some of that publicity.
Well, maybe we should give Conrad some more publicity in some way.
Yeah, well.
So, I don't know how, but...
We thank you for calling, Ruth.
Okay, right, bye.
Take care.
Right.
Next view, please.
Oh,
You recognize that one? WPA workers up near the pagoda site, getting ready for lunch. You know what amazes me? I interviewed people years ago who were part of that WPA business. I talked to one fellow who lived in Birdsboro, And you know that he walked along the railroad tracks from Birdsboro to follow the railroad tracks into Reading, and then came up the hill to work for a small amount of money per day. And when the day was over, he walked down Penn Street along the railroad tracks back to Birdsboro. Can you believe that?
Unbelievable.
Yeah. Yeah, they were working at that time on those stone walls and also building the roadway that you see up there near the tower. Keep in mind that that roadway that you see up there along the tower was in its early form the right-of-way of the Mount Penn Gravity Railroad, 1890 to 1923. We have a home viewer. Yes, home viewer.
George, how are you?
I'm reasonably well, thank you.
I noticed you got new glasses.
Only for reading.
Okay. Hey, I had a question that's been bugging me for months, and I thought you'd be the man to answer it.
Uh-oh.
I live over here in Whitfield.
Yes.
And I'm just curious. I know it was built by the Whitman Builders, and they also did, North Whitfield and Flying Hills and whatever, and Pennside. What year did they start building Whitfield?
That's a good question.
North Whitfield.
They were involved with taking over the land from Carsonia as well, when it closed in 1950 and all those houses went in down there.
Right, you are. But I was just curious what year they started Whitfield and what year they ended it, finished it.
You know, I really can't answer that question, but we can certainly check that out. I'm sure that information could probably be gleaned to some degree from the city directories. Yeah. Sometime pay a visit to the Historical Society's library. The old city directories give you listings, and they also tell you, in the back, after 1929, they give you all the streets that were added year by year.
Oh.
And when you start checking for your street, and you find it, then you go back to the year before that. When it disappears, that's when they built your street.
I'll be darned. I didn't know that. Thank you, sir.
We thank you for calling.
You take care.
So long. Next view, please. That's a neat picture. What you're seeing there up in the corner is the inset, and that is around 1861, the Bridgens Atlas of Berks County lists a turnpike that was very short-lived. It ran from the Yellow House Hotel down to Douglasville. And that road is what you see there in the foreground. There were two toll houses on that turnpike. This one, when you leave Yellow House and you're heading for Douglasville, on the left-hand side at a really tough turn, and you can't see it too much in the inset, but in the very old photograph from about 1888, you see that sharp turn in the road. You look at that and you realize that was a turnpike. It looks to be like 5 feet wide.
It's a dirt road.
Yeah, it was a dirt road. It was a pike road, actually, crushed stone. I always laugh when I think of the old turnpike, how men walked back and forth all day long with sledgehammers making the stones smaller. But anyhow, that was one of the two toll houses. Some of you folks might remember a Toll House Road and Morlawton Road near Douglasville, near that Kiwi place where they manufactured Kiwi shoe paste and shoe polish. They tore down the other toll house that used to sit right on the corner on the left-hand side of the road as you head to Douglasville. So that's the only one that survives, and you can see that it's been modified rather considerably. But that's a neat photograph. Now, you really can't see it because it looks like Ma Kettle or Marjorie Main or somebody like that there in the dress, and there are a bunch of little kids, and they surely can't be hers unless they're grandchildren. And there's a little pussycat right there along the fence. It's a really neat, sharp view. Is there a home viewer? Do we have a home viewer?
Yes. I'd like to just make a comment, and that was about thing concerning Daniel Boone Homestead and Conrad Weiser. Don't you think it's about time that if people are going to take such a great interest and want to make these phone calls and talk like that, why don't they take the time like people have done in the past, like during World War II, when people came forth and said, we're going to volunteer and help out with these things. If these people are so concerned about Conrad Weiser, I think these people should step forward and say, hey, I'm willing to put a couple hours in here and there and take care of what I know that Daniel Boone Homestead has this down there, and they have quite good volunteer system that works very well. And Mr. Luars, if you know who he is, he does a heck of a job, and he really puts in a lot of man hours, and he has a lot of people that also do the same thing. And this is the same thing that's got to happen with Conrad Weiser. I hate to say it, but I think it's, you know, we're getting to the point now that the state has more important things that they could spend money on than something like that. I'm not trying to say it's a bad place or it's a bad investment. It's just the idea that where do you make these cuts? I mean, it just doesn't make sense to me no more.
Yeah. It's a point to consider.
Yeah. Yes, it is.
We thank you for calling.
Thank you.
I think we're going to take a break, Simon, and turn it over to you.
Okay. Well, I'm going to talk about things that are happening at the Historical Society, and I got to tell you, it's hard to begin because there's so many things going on. I guess the first thing I'd like to talk about is that every year, in conjunction with our major exhibit for the year, we generally always have what I'd like to call a friend-raising dinner for the Historical Society of Berks County. Last year, it was the celebration of the 175th anniversary of the Reading Railroad, but this year, in conjunction with our latest exhibit, World Wars I and II on the Berks home front, We Stood United, we are hosting a friend-raising event that will take place on Wednesday, June 17th, beginning at 6 p.m. at the Abraham Lincoln Hotel. And this is going to be a lot of fun. If you've ever participated in one of these, it really is a good time. This year, we're, again, it's Wednesday, June 17th. It's beginning at 6 p.m. at the Abraham Lincoln Hotel. And it is called On the Berks Home Front, We Stood United. And it's going to be, it starts off with a cocktail reception at 6 o'clock, cash bar that will go until 7:30. And at 7:30, we're going to be having dinner in the Grand Ballroom. And what's really great is that following dinner, we are going to be having one swell event. The Historical Society is working in conjunction with the Reading Civic Theater and the Dave Stahl Orchestra, and they're going to be they're orchestrating and organizing a USO extravaganza to be held in conjunction and on the same theme as the home front fundraiser. So it's really going to be a good time. We've got about 200 and, well, actually it'll hold about 225 guests right now. We've got, I think, we haven't sent out invitations. They're going to go out on Friday. We just want this to be a save the date for you. And invitations will go out. The tickets are $100 a piece. That includes dinner and the entertainment, and it really will be a good time, and the proceeds from this event are going to go to fund all the education programs and the exhibits and the First Saturday programs that we bring to the citizens of Berks County. So it really is going to be a good time. I'm trying to think if there's anything else.
Well, there's a large part that they can deduct from their taxes.
Oh, yeah, as a matter of fact, that's true. You can deduct approximately $70 of the $100 ticket from your taxes, so that's going to be a really good time.
I'm wondering how many home viewers remember when they had those things going on locally. Hamburg used to have some of those events years back for the soldiers that have special events. There was an article some time ago about how the ladies would volunteer to dance with the soldiers.
Sure, yeah, that's right.
So this is going to be a really great affair. What's that date again, Simon?
The date is Wednesday, June 17th. From 6 p.m. at the Abraham Lincoln Hotel.
And if they don't get an invitation, everybody's invited. So if you don't get an invitation, just call the society.
Just call the Historical Society at 610-375-4375. You have that. And then bring up one other event that we've got coming up. Well, actually, I've mentioned it on the show before, but we also are right now in the process of renovating what was formerly the Palmer Library at the Historical Society's main location at 940 Center Avenue. Construction has begun. We ought to be finished in about probably about 4 or 5 weeks, at which point we are going to transform it into the Palmer Gallery. And we're going to be using it to put on smaller exhibits and also to display more of the artwork that has heretofore been kept in storage, Josh has had in storage at the Historical Society. But we're going to have a great exhibit, something that's not been done before at the Historical Society or really any place else in the United States or, for the best of my knowledge, around the world. The Historical Society is working in conjunction with the Kentucky Rifle Association. And for For those of you who are not aware, back in the 18th century, all of southeastern Pennsylvania was home to the wonderful Kentucky rifles that Conrad Weiser as well as Daniel Boone carried throughout the state. And one of the major implements that opened up the West and saw the resettlement and the Trans-Appalachian migration of Daniel Boone. But anyway, Berks County was unique in that they had about 4 schools, what they called schools, of gun making. The architecture and the art that went into these rifles is unique and can only be found from the makers who came out of Berks County. So, like I said, for the people that are, who know these rifles, when they see a Berks County rifle, they can tell immediately. Anyway, we're having an exhibit focusing on these that we'll probably have in the neighborhood of about 40 to 60 of the best rifles out of Berks County makers from that period on display. That'll be starting on September 12th.
September 12th, yeah.
September 12th, and tentatively scheduled to run throughout the end of the year, but might go longer if warranted. So that's going to be a great exhibit. It's called Berks County Long Rifles and Gun Making, 1750 to 1900, and it'll explore gun making and during that time period. So it's going to be a really great exhibit. Like I said, this is a once in a lifetime, and these guns are in private collections and they don't come out very often. So
we're going to have some guns that have really never ever been on display, and if they haven't been on display, it's been years since they've been on display. But if you have any guns or rifles that you can think of, or anything related to it, like powder horns or powder measures, please give me a call, 610-375-4375. I'd love to talk to you. Sometimes we can never plan for what's going to be at the exhibit until the word gets around and like, whoa, didn't even know that existed. And our guest curator, Mr. Patrick Hornberger, is really trying to help us get that out there, to get the word out on the exhibit, because Beer and Pretzels, the Rarity exhibit, we never know what's out there until you watch us here on the show and tell your friends. That's the way it really happens.
And like the rifles, Berks County had their own unique powder horn. Their architecture on the powder horns was unlike any place else. Did we have a home viewer?
Yeah, I think we have a home viewer.
Yes, home viewer.
Yes, George, I have a question for you. I know you're rather familiar with St. Lawrence, aren't you?
I have a vague recollection of some of the things.
Listen, what I'd like to know is, if you go back to if you know where the stone quarry is in St. Lawrence, and you keep following that back, you'll come out to where the high tension lines come down through, that you can see, and it's cleared out. You cross that. Was there something back there at one time? Did people live back there or something at one time?
You're not referring to that log building that used to be in the woods, are you?
No.
Okay.
This is on.
That's farther back. You're heading more to the back.
Yeah.
Do you know that I've never even been back to the stone quarry, and I've lived there 45 years?
I just always noticed this, because I'm very familiar with that area because I grew up there. And for years I used to take, hikes and things of that nature back there. And whenever you would come out into that clearing is where those high tension lines were. If you cross onto the other side of that, there was like small shacks and shanties like in there. And now the years have gone by and a lot of those have deteriorated. But I always wanted to know, do you know of any people that might have lived back there?
People who live there know. Have you chatted with the Donaghy's at the general store in Jacksonwald?
No, well, they're no longer around.
Well, I talked to them yesterday.
Oh, you did?
Yeah. The 2 gentlemen in Donaghy's store there in Jacksonwald, they're very knowledgeable about that area. Stop in sometime and ask them.
Okay.
Because they know that area like the back of their hand, because they used to get back there years ago for a number of things.
Okay.
Okay.
Thank you so much.
Thank you for calling.
All right, bye.
Simon, is there anything you wanted to add to that?
The only other thing I might mention is that the Hendel House will be open this coming Saturday, I believe from 11 to 3, and it'll be a final opportunity to see the wonderful Easter egg tree that we have on display down there. That's second to none.
That's special.
It's really special. Like I said, that's, again, one of the things very unique to Berks County. It's something you really need to see.
And I wanted to comment about Josh's comments on the Palmer Gallery. Do you know our collection of artwork, which has increased in recent years, is really special because absolutely everything that we have in the way of art is Berks County art. And we've acquired some wonderful things in no small measure due to Mr. Bertlett's initiative in that regard. We have acquired some wonderful Berks County art in recent times, and I'm sure that some of that will appear when the gallery opens. You're going to be surprised at what we have. You're definitely going to be surprised. There's some really neat stuff there. Let me see. Do we have time? Let's have a couple more pictures. Okay, there's a controversy going on about that. That's the old Bushong paper mill over there in Glenside. You know, when you cross the Schuylkill Avenue Bridge, you would turn from Reading. You'd cross the Schuylkill Avenue Bridge. You'd turn left at Toby's Showboat. You go back to the end, and that part of that old mill still stands. That was Bushong's paper mill for a long time. Now, those of you with good vision and big screens can see on the right-hand side there's an old mill standing there. That old mill was Samuel Bell's mill, which was erected in 1811. Right now, you're reading in the paper about plans on the part of some to tear away the old dam. An article in the Reading Eagle recently said that dam dates from 1895, which makes me wonder what Samuel Bell did in 1811 for water. But that's a whole other story. That's a rare photograph that's going to be in the new volume 17, and when you see the detail that's in that photograph, you're going to be impressed. My father used to fish there, and right on this side of the creek, there's a, I guess it's gone now, there was a brick building, and you would be fishing there. You hear this chuck, chuck, chuck all the time. And the Reading Railroad used to have a pump there, a pump house to take water up the hill.
Engines, yeah.
Yeah, for the engines. That little pump house used to. What's that?
That far?
Oh yeah, up the hill. I don't know what kind of a pump they had, but you could hear it pump, 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 pump. Because I used to annoy my father sometimes. He was afraid it would scare the fish. But, and I'm sure that that's long gone by this time.
Speaking of painting stores, we have a beautiful painting of that mill.
Do we really?
Yes.
No kidding.
Gee, I learned something too. Very good, Joshua.
Who's the artist?
I can't remember.
No, I'm sorry.
It must
I
have
put you
Mr. Miller,
on the spot.
The next view, please. Oh, we're out in Temple. Is that Mount Laurel Road, I guess? In the dead center of the contemporary picture, no, in the dead center of the old photograph, you see a one-room schoolhouse. That one-room schoolhouse building still stands, and I believe there's like a police social quarters in that building. At the top on the inset, which got chopped off just a little bit, you can see that neighborhood has actually changed surprisingly little. There's a person living in that block 2 doors down from the school who actually went to that school. And she just had her 88th birthday recently. And the picture on the top shows that very same view today. Neat picture then and now. What we try to do whenever possible is to include as many current views taken from the same camera perspective so that people who have moved from the area long ago can relate to the old photographs. The next view, please. Do you recognize that? They did me dirty because I was driving by today and they're now putting a portico
Wait a minute.
partly over the...
Is that...
That's where we get your sandwiches sometimes for the Historical Society.
Wait a minute, which
Oh, that's Mike's.
That's Mike's at,
Yeah,
at
Mike's.
Boone and
Is that
Center
right?
Avenue.
Yeah.
Wow.
And that's an old-time photograph, and the person who operated that store, like a little general store in there years ago, lived right next door. And if you look at the inset of how the building looks, how the building looked
right.
a month ago or 2 months ago, it had changed surprisingly little. And that house next door was where the general merchant used to live.
Looks like they changed the windows.
Yeah.
Yeah, a little bit. Yeah, you're right.
Yeah. Cornice is still there.
Yeah, so that is Center Avenue and Boone Street.
Wow.
Good place to get a cheesesteak. Great
Yeah,
place to
Mike's
get a cheesesteak.
does pretty good.
They also, I can't remember what's in it, but they also serve a great sandwich called The Thing.
So that's the thing. I think we have a home viewer. Home viewer? Home viewer, you're on.
Yes, that picture in Temple, is that at Mount Laurel, 8th Avenue?
Yes, it is.
Okay, that's where the old Temple Democratic Club used to be.
That's right. And it changed hands within fairly recent times. I think there's a police organization.
Yeah, the FOP is in there now.
Oh, is it? How long have they been there?
Oh, a couple of years now.
They closed that building, I think, shortly after they built that other schoolhouse that used to be a short distance away, and that's gone too. I think there's a laundromat in there in that site today.
Yeah.
I forget what the name of that road is. But I had a picture of the other school that they used when, and you know, there was a really early school right across the street from the one-room schoolhouse that you're seeing there that predated that one-room schoolhouse.
On 8th Avenue.
Directly across from the schoolhouse that you see in the center of the screen.
Yeah, it's on the northwest corner.
I think they tore that down, I believe.
Yeah, it's another house put on place.
Another house put on the site. We thank you for the call.
No, you're welcome.
We appreciate that. Let's shift gears again. And Joshua, I think you have something for us.
Yeah, I have a couple quick goodies here. I like to say, and I say this every time, but it's the honest truth. Every day of my job is discovery of stuff I've never seen before, or we like to keep track of here. So I brought a couple things along here. If you want to have a look at the table here, there's a cute little anvil right here. Now, I'm probably going to get a boo from George or some of you at home, but the anvil is actually made here in Schuylkill County, not Berks County.
Go ahead.
But anyway.
Of course, Schuylkill was part of Berks until 1811.
That's right. That's
1811.
But this is a really cute anvil. The story I have here is I don't know much beyond this or a time period. This is exactly the story from my records here. A boastful journeyman caused a local blacksmith to accept the bet that a young guy by the name of James Cleese, who was 18 years old at the time, could make a better model than the journeyman. Cleese won. He was only about 18 at the time. It's a really beautiful, detailed model, and it's got a neat little wooden base on it. If you want to have another look at it, I'll show you the top of it. But they certainly spent the time to make a nice little base for it, but it's absolutely beautiful.
There was a Cleese forge at one time.
That might be related. It was donated in '53 by a guy named Frederick Cleese.
Okay.
Means anything to you, George?
Would that be a forge or machine? When was it made?
That would have been a machine, but I'm saying, but the Cleese family had a forge for many years.
Well, this probably would have been made by hand, I guess.
I'm sure it was.
So really, it's in great shape, too. Probably made a good paperweight, whoever owned it before us, but it's a really beautiful shape.
Because a forge was essentially a mechanized blacksmith shop.
Oh, yeah, right, okay.
The second item here is, and I haven't told George, so maybe he'll be a little surprised and probably have more to say about it, but this is, it was found in the cornerstone of a building at 5th and Franklin Streets in Reading. Any idea what the building was, George?
At 5th and Franklin. Well, let me see, 5th and Franklin. You had the old City Hall.
No.
The 1870s, okay.
Before that.
Before that. On the other side was the Trexler Mansion, and then became the Elks, and then you had the Oddfellows Hall.
That's it.
Okay.
That's it. The inside of the lid here is probably not going to show up well on camera. This box is made out of zinc, by the way. I'll see if I can hold it up, but it probably won't be able to see it.
Can I flick it?
If you look towards the top, or can you zoom up towards the top, there you can see a little writing there.
Oh.
But I'll read it for you because it's going to be really impossible to see on the camera.
Looks like Longmont.
But the inside of the lid is inscribed, made by Jason and Rogers, July 10th, 1846. And it was found in the cornerstone of the Oddfellows Temple at 5th and Franklin Streets in Reading, but the building was demolished in 1910, 1911. I unfortunately do not know what was in this.
To make way for the public library, the Carnegie Library.
I believe this served as I believe the Oddfellows Hall served as a library for a short time.
The Reading Library Company was in the Oddfellows Hall.
Yeah, before they demolished it. But this bank was made. This box is made out of zinc, but I unfortunately do not know what was in it. Maybe I'll discover that one day. If anybody knows anything more, or can remember back to 1910, 1911. But it's a beautiful handcrafted box from 1846.
That's neat.
It's pretty heavy, too. But, pardon?
It's zinc.
It is.
It's zinc, yes, that's right.
Zinc's heavy.
Zinc is quite heavy. But
that's neat, Joshua.
Discovering neat stuff all the time, but that's about all I have for now. I think Kim's got some neater stuff over there.
Go ahead, Kim.
Nifty. The documents that I brought are from the George Smith collection. Archival assistant Tiffany Fisk-Watts is actually processing this collection. We've entitled it the George Smith Collection. I think I've said that. I'm repeating. He was a lawyer, a property owner, landlord, and collection agent for the Southern Pennsylvania Mutual Relief Association. And he was also an investor in the Penn Street Passenger Railway.
Oh.
And one of the documents I did bring is one of the mortgage bonds. We have a number of these in the collection. This is it's shiny because it's encapsulated in archival mylar so that we can hold it up. He's got a number of these that came in the collection. So
No cash value.
no, yeah, you can't. Not
That
anymore.
Penn Street line ran from the bridge up to City Park. That was the original Penn Street line. Of course, the first line was out 6th Street to Charles Evans Cemetery.
These documents were actually found under, I believe, a floorboard in an attic. And what you can't see, but if you look along this line here and straight down the center, the document is actually in 2 pieces. And I brought some other documents from this collection to kind of show you what, camera, that if you're going to store documents in attics or basement,
Or on the floorboards.
or floorboards, or behind walls, be aware that rodents and insects like to get into, they like to eat paper. And you can see that around the edges, this document was actually folded in half, and you can see the outline of where
They nibbled.
they nibbled. This is probably one of my favorite ones. This is a lease from George Smith to Wallace Deppen from 1883. And this is what happens to your documents.
You're sure somebody just didn't know how to cut out paper dolls?
Or it was a Rorschach. Yeah,
That's my next one. It's a template for those tests.
Yeah. Now, some of you are probably wondering why I'm holding this document without gloves. Because the documents are in this state condition, we've actually photocopied them, and the photocopies are what's going to be available. These will unfortunately be
You were going to put them back under the floorboard? Oh.
Yeah, we're going to put them into the big recycle bin, only because rodents and insects also carry disease, and we don't want researchers actually handling these documents.
Yeah, that's right.
And, you know, we don't know what's actually on these, so it's safer for researchers if we actually photocopy them and dispose of
It's fill in the blanks
documents.
history. Just fill in the blanks history.
We'll write it in.
Yeah.
Now, I did bring this one. This is actually, based on Tiffany's notes, a love letter. And the difference between this and a document like these is this is actual, some of it is insect and rodent driven, and the rest of it is just old age and being dried out. You can see how it's not eaten here, it's actually frayed. And this is basically what happens when documents become brittle. They will literally start falling apart. You can tell that it's been folded, and you can see that it's starting to tear along the fold lines. So if you'd like to preserve your documents, make sure that they're, one, not in cardboard boxes. You can probably store them in any of the plastic bins, but make sure that they are going to be in a relatively, you know, even temperatured room where there's not a lot of heat and humidity fluctuations, and just try to keep them away from creepy crawly critters.
So you wouldn't suggest one of those zinc boxes?
No.
Thank you, Kim.
One thing that continually amazes me, you talk about age affecting documents. It also affects objects and fabrics, of course, especially with fabrics and paper, how the old inks and used to be like an iron oxide.
Right.
I've seen fabric rust, and I've seen actually paper rust because the inks that they used were iron-based.
You know what concerns me? Some of those the spiral lamps that we're seeing. The spiral lamps.
CFLs.
The CFLs are not very good if you have them in a room with old photographs or needlework.
They'll fade it.
Oh, big time.
right?
Big time. I'm really concerned about that.
Huh.
You don't hear anybody talking about that. All you hear about are the monetary savings, which of course are important. But I worry about people having those things all over their houses with photographs hanging on the walls and some of the old needlework, because it will eventually take a major toll. That's scary.
I think we have another home viewer.
Home viewer, yes. Home viewer?
George,
Yes.
do you remember how the Kentucky long rifle got its name?
By being carried down. I'll pass that one on to Simon. I think they were carried down to Kentucky, but go ahead.
Well, they were carried down to Kentucky, but it was in the song, the Battle of 1812, and that ballad that was written, and I can't remember the words, but they talk about the they weren't afraid of them with their Andrew Jackson wasn't afraid of them with their Kentucky rifles.
I don't go back to 1812, but I do seem to remember about 30 years ago there was a shooting match between marksmen from Pennsylvania and marksmen from Kentucky, because up until that time it was also known as the Pennsylvania long rifle,
that's right,
as well as the Kentucky long rifle, and I'm embarrassed to say we lost, and that's why today it's known exclusively as the Kentucky long rifle.
Paul Allison, is that you?
No, I'm not Allison.
Okay. Boy, you sound a lot like him. All right.
Maybe it's time for a reshoot.
yeah.
No, that's true. But they say in the research tends to go back to that ballad.
Right, but I'm just saying that they did have a shoot-off.
That's very interesting.
Remember, it was about 30 years ago, and the guys from Pennsylvania lost the rights, the naming rights to the long rifle, and since then it's been known exclusively as the Kentucky long rifle.
Okay.
To the winner go the spoils.
Share that little bit with you.
That's very good.
Thank you.
Thank you. Maybe have some more pictures, please. This is a dandy. Jim Hoffert from the Moulton area passed this on to me today, and I restored the photograph. A little bit of it's cut off, but down in the Glen, if you would go to Forest Hill Cemetery and walk straight back and down the hill towards the river, you come to the area of the Glen, and there's the Glen Hotel, which was operated by Mr. Dengler, is in the background. That's one of the Never Sink Mountain cars. That's one of the best pictures that I've ever seen. It looks a little dark on the screen, but people remember the trolleys years ago used to have those placards along the sides under the ceiling line, and you can read almost all those placards on the original photograph.
The old ads.
Yeah, the old ads. Huh. One of them is for George Hintz. Bill Hintz's dad, for Hintz's bookstore. Huh. That is an absolutely great photograph, a really valuable one, and that'll be in the new volume 17 coming out. The next picture, please. That's a dandy. If you look at the front of that, it says
White House.
Yeah, the White House Hotel. The White House Hotel was on the South 9th Street Road that led back eventually to Route 724. You went down the hill to Poplar Neck. You would cross the old Poplar Neck Bridge, and you would wind up on present-day Route 724. There with the animal.
There, George?
It was along. That's right. You would pass right past the White House. Lover's Leap would have been on the right-hand side. But isn't that an unusual? That's the only picture I have ever seen.
Look at the windows on that thing.
Chris Papadakis, our good friend who lives in West Lawn, made this picture available for the Next Passing Scene book. That looks the world to me like it was a gypsy wagon.
Yeah.
Yeah, it really does.
Yeah.
But that was what they called a station wagon, and a lot of the old hotels had station wagons. The hotel at 3rd and Penn, the hotel at 6th and Penn would send wagons to the depot to bring people back to their hotels. That's why they called them station wagons. And that is the most unusual one. That's at 5th and Penn. Now, you really can't see it because it's been a little bit cropped. But on the original photograph, and I'm going to run the whole picture, which shows a lot of Penn Street, and then I'm going to have this on the opposite side with a close-up of that unusual wagon. We're at the old, what used to be the First National Bank. Bill Heaster's dad was president of that bank at 5th and Penn. And that would be right near Stichter's hardware store.
Would they... Did any of the sources show when somebody was coming into town? Would they have reservations at the White House, or did the White House just show up and say, "We've got a lovely hotel here"?
Both ways.
Both ways. Okay.
Both ways. Yes. Do we have time for another picture, or don't we? Well, these hours go by so fast. Oh, that's a dandy. That's a dandy, and we have to thank Kim Richards, who is sitting here, for making this picture available. That was taken, I'm assuming, with a box camera, and it would have been sometime in the 1930s. That's the old Thunderbolt, which was designed by a Reading man. There was a big article in the paper this week about the fellow who designed 80 roller coasters, and he's born in Reading, and he came back to Reading. Those of you who would like to meet the gentleman, he's out at Charles Evans Cemetery. We haven't quite located his place of residence at the present time, but I'm sure Michelle and I will go looking for it to get a picture. But isn't that a great picture of the Thunderbolt? Now, when the original roller coaster there was remade. They used a lot of the wood. They used a lot of the wood, as in point of fact, from the Jackrabbit to the Thunderbolt, which was there until 1950. There was a maiden lady that I knew who used to watch all the work going on with all those fellas without their shirts with binoculars, and she saw them picking up all kinds of money. When they tore that thing down, all around the base of it, they found money sort of just a little bit under the ground. Folks, tell your friends about our show, which is on the first Wednesday of each month at 7 o'clock. Thanks to today's program associates, Joshua Blay, Sime Bertlet,
Thanks, George.
Kim Richards, for their part in today's presentation. Thanks to our special guest, David Sonnen. I'm George Miser IX, your host and president of the Historical Society for the past 11 years. We look forward to having you join us again on the first Wednesday of June. That's June the 3rd, 2009 at 7 o'clock. Thanks for watching. Good night.